when I talk to customers, a lot of the challenges that they relate back to me have to do with the velocity of change and the velocity of content that they're dealing with, and the lack of control that they have to deal with as well. And so that represents a big challenge. You know, one of the customers that I talked to, he kind of related it to like the house down the street where, you know, the woman has 50 cats living there, and the house looks okay from the outside, but nobody wants to go in. And, you know, that's kind of emblematic of some of the issues that I think we all experience dealing with trying to maintain a fast and responsive web experience, a high quality web experience, when content is coming at us from all over the place, from places that are outside of our control most often. And so it's difficult to be able to relate, you know, why it's important for us to manage that better in the context of the user's experience.
Well, one challenge is to get over the obsession with failure and to actually start to talk about success and about normal work. Because if we talk about safety only in terms of failure, then actually this is not a very appealing thing for people to speak about. So one of the important things is to try to find out what people normally do on a day-to-day basis. So what is the work as done? And to try to understand how that differs from how we imagine that people work. That might be, we call work as imagined. And so this difference between work as imagined and work as done is really critical.
Actually, I think that was covered really well in some of the talks today. It's not that we don't want the same things, it's the language we use to talk about those things. So engineers and front-end developers and operations people talk in ways and use words and language that don't make sense to the business people. And so it's kind of like me coming to a foreign country. I have to understand what you're talking about. We can find the common ground then. But as the person who's speaking the foreign language, I have to make the effort to understand what you're talking about, and I think that translation between the two is really the biggest piece.
For us as performance testers, it's more working with people in the business, so making the businesses understand what we do and how we do it, and making sure that we meet what they want as well. So that's the real challenge, I think.
I think around here at Velocity in particular, people do really have an appreciation for and an understanding of performance. But where the challenge comes in is when you leave Velocity and you go back to the business, articulating the impact and the influence of performance in terms that the business can understand. People like people in the marketing organization or the product organization, they need to understand performance relative to how it's impacting user engagement, abandonment, conversion, things like that. And so, you know, we really advocate for taking an approach where you're not only looking at performance, but also the user behavior that is correlated against that performance.
I guess my tip would be understand their language instead of trying to make them understand yours. You know, so figure out what goals someone in the business has, and how do you translate what you do into showing them that you're supporting their goals?
I think people are only too happy to talk about how work is normally done. They're happy to talk about how the work normally works, about how things normally succeed. And actually, when you keep talking only about failure, then people become more defensive, and that becomes a harder discussion. So it's about finding a balance between talking about failure and talking about success. But on the whole, the thing to talk about is normal work and how the system works.